The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and Your Sports Network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
It's Monday, and boy, do we have a jam-packed show for you today. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell. Running Point brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. What a weekend, Ty.
What a weekend it was. We now know exactly what our football matchups are going to be going into next weekend. I think I'm going to be at a matchup that I don't think my heart can take again, but we'll talk about that a little bit later, as well as this is now going to be the start of where you could expect pretty much about 2 to 3 basketball coaches every day if everything goes as planned for the next few weeks. So we're going to be talking a lot of basketball just about every day here on Running Point.
That's why I said we have a jam-packed show, because we have the recap of the weekend, not just football playoffs, but we have district semifinal set in volleyball, district semifinal set in soccer. We have Dana Balish calling it at 1 o'clock, and then we have Lee Knepp from Sebring, and he'll be in at 12:30, the boys basketball coach at Sebring. We have Jeff Fischel, the girls head coach over at South Range, at 1:15, and then at 1:30 we have Mark Smith, the head coach of the boys team over at Edison. So man, do we have hoops, we have soccer, we have volleyball, we have football. It's a great Monday. Hope you're awake at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're gonna get you through this period too, especially if maybe your team wasn't the fortunate in the top 16 in that Sweet 16. We're gonna be talking your basketball team coming up pretty soon. So stay tuned.
There were some that on Friday night you just kind of felt for. Like, you knew they needed to get in the playoffs. You knew they played hard. They were right there. And they just couldn't make that last play. And it just, your heart goes out, because we kind of, as we dive into covering these teams, we get invested in their communities. So as much as we're happy for the teams that got in, our heart kind of breaks for the teams that didn't, and that were so close.
Yeah, if we want to go off some notable ones, Boardman for me, off the rip. And you want to talk about someone, and you know what? Played Canfield the best since that Dover team that beat him back in week 2. Boardman gave it a great shot against a very good Canfield offense, and their defense held strong. Just couldn't come in with that one final offensive push that they needed. And you got to give credit to Canfield again. Their defense has been tough to score against all year long, and they held through again and got them another victory.
You know what just really ripped my up for Boardman? It was there was a long touchdown that would have tied the game. Everyone's going nuts. It's at Boardman, and then you see that yellow little flag go up, and it was a holding call, and it's just like
the yellow mark of death. And I mean, it drains momentum.
You said it. Talk about like the poorest time flag ever, because at that point, Boardman had momentum. They scored to make it 13-6. They recovered an onside kick, and they were driving down the field again. They had all the momentum in the world in that game, and it felt like that holding call gave Canfield a little breath. And their defense kind of regrouped, stopped them on that drive. Boardman would eventually get the ball again, but not be able to get it in the end zone. It was tough for the Spartans.
But you know what? Boardman doing a lot of the same things we've seen Fitch and other teams in that AAC conference do now, and that is schedule up. And we saw Boardman face the Benedictines of the world, the number one seed. Yeah, some very tough teams on the docket this year. And you know what? You'll be surprised, but I think those type of games you're going to see help Boardman, especially in seasons to come. This is a program that I believe is on the rise, and I think it's only going to be a matter of time before we see Boardman back in the playoff picture again.
And it won't be too long before we're talking to Pat Birch and we're focusing on a couple of those kids on the basketball team.
And we know that basketball team's going to be just fine when it comes around, as Boardman with one of the strongest programs, I think, in the area, especially for up division. So we're going to be excited to talk to their basketball programs. I'm sure we already know which one you're going to be talking about for the Heartbreakers. So we're going to let you. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about what
Liberty, man.
Yeah.
There's something about Liberty's team. I've loved the way they've played all year. I've loved the energy they've brought to the season on social media and everything. Before the season, the Return the Roar, I bought into them, and I thought you look at their season, you should have bought into this team. It was something that you definitely, it was there. A lot of young kids, a lot of young playmakers. In the last two games, they pushed LeBray and Garfield to the absolute limits. And just the young team wasn't able to make those. I talked about it with Warren Harding. The game-winning plays just weren't there, unfortunately, for the Leopards. And, man, you feel for them because they probably got closer to Garfield than anyone in that MVAC did this year. And they were, 99% win percentage against LeBray. And if they win one of those two games, they're in the playoffs.
And you know what? Garfield, one of the best, I think, number 4 in that region in Division 5. LeBray, obviously, number 1 in Division 6. This is the Liberty team, especially those last two games. Yeah, they dropped both of them, but both of them within a score. How do you not buy into a program like that? And I hope you see all that talent that is eligible to return to that program return next year, because I think they have something really special brewing there in Liberty. And hey, in Division 5, we've seen teams go pretty far, especially in this area with those type of divisions. And you might see a newcomer knocking on the door in Division 5 saying, we got a program and we got a squad over here.
They're returning almost everybody. I mean, like DC Farrell, he's coming back. He's only a freshman. Chris Cunningham, his favorite target's coming back. By the way, he finished the season, I believe he got 100 yards receiving in the Garfield game. If he did, 5 consecutive games to close out the season with 100 yards receiving. And Devontae Ventures, great running back. They have the line that I think maybe the biggest line that Garfield has had to play. So let's shift it from Liberty's point of view to Garfield. I think that's the size-wise the biggest line they've probably played in a while, and they really still pushed it around like it was piece of cake. I mean, that last drive, they said, we have to score. We need a touchdown. They were down by, I believe, 2, because Liberty went for the 2-point conversion, maybe one or two. Either way, they needed to score, and they just went right down the field with that run game, the direct snaps to Anthony Dema, and they did it. They pushed around that line. They got into the end zone. Big building block for this Garfield program to go up against that sized offensive line.
Now, here's a question for you, Anthony, because you've seen a lot of the Liberty games. I've seen a lot of clips, highlights, and I mean just seeing a lot of the box scores. Is Liberty still kind of struggling in that kicking department? Because I recall last year when everybody made the playoffs, it was something Liberty did not use at all against Warrensville Heights, and it was something more. They went for 2 every single time that they made it to the end zone. So I don't know if it's just a lack of not having a kicker, or if it's just that their offense opts for them to go for 2 more often than not.
Really wish I had a solid answer for you, because like you, I guess see what we get to see in the audible call. But we see quite a bit. We check in on Liberty quite a bit, because especially the last 2 weeks, because they were in some really close games. We just have to go off of what they're doing. They went for 2, obviously, but they needed to take the lead.
That's just something that popped into my head, because if it's the case of not having a kicker, that could be something. If Liberty can try to maybe develop someone like that, and hey, sometimes you could talk to some of those soccer kids, and you could get someone on the team too that are pretty good. But if that's a case, and it's not a by choice thing, maybe that's something Liberty can definitely look forward to. But absolutely, with what we've seen from DC Farrell, and at least what I've seen on Audible Calls, as I have the game up, I'm always watching Audible Calls so I could try to do my best in getting homework on everyone else while I'm doing the game. But Liberty's line is looking impressive, and I think the fact that that line is going to continue to be that there and that kind of bread and butter for that offense for DC Farrell to kind of continue to develop behind. Boy, oh boy, is that going to be a squad over there in Liberty.
I think the scariest thing about DC Farrell and his obviously 3 more years to grow, he has a lot of room to improve.
Absolutely.
He was so good. He was a playmaker, but there's a lot of things that Coach Simon and the coaching staff can dive into film and be like, here, you need to do this, and help him grow. He's going to be a dynamic sophomore quarterback come next year.
We'll see. I mean, his ceiling is limitless. It all depends on how much work he puts in this offseason, and he's going to get out exactly what he puts into it, and I think that's going to be the biggest key to it. But I think if he puts in the work, he can be one of, if not the best in the area.
I think the biggest thing for Liberty going forward is just more discipline. I mean, discipline going forward. Last year, so much better. This year, so much better than last year. I mean, last year they were just making silly penalties in bad situations almost every game. This year, it's more of a turnover discipline and the little details and things like that. Ball security late in games. We saw the fumble against LeBray, et cetera, et cetera. Those little details that they need to be disciplined with. But great strides. So if they made those strides from last year to this year, then I expect they make more strides from this year to next year.
I tell you what, too. When everyone was looking at the standings and we saw the last 2 weeks of the season, I don't know if many people were thinking, oh, man, Liberty needs to win at least one versus either LeBray or Garfield. You might as well just count them out of the playoffs right now. And you watch those 2 games, and I don't think anybody was expecting the fight. Maybe us, because we've been seeing them all year, but I don't think anyone was expecting that fight that Liberty was going to bring to 2 of the best in Division 6 and Division 5, respectively.
I think more people were not surprised by LeBray, because LeBray is more of strength versus strength. You know, I mean, it's LeBray and Liberty are more equal to each other. They like the high flying offense, and athleticism. But I think people came into that Garfield game knowing what Garfield did to LeBray and said, oh, man, this Liberty team is going to get pushed around. They can't be that physical. They can't move the ball against this physical defense. They went out and proved them wrong.
And like you said, it was the offensive line that was impressive versus a very sizable Garfield defensive line.
Both offensive lines played extremely well, especially Garfield, because I think, like I said, I think Liberty might be size-wise the biggest offensive line they've played in the MVAC.
Yeah, and you know what? I think Liberty's one of those teams. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think you're going to have to be very aware of what Liberty's going to be doing. And DC Farrell, first year's quarterback program, goes 5-5. That's a very, very good foundation. Hey, you didn't have a losing season. You were 500. That's a good building block to build off of for future seasons. And I think Liberty's going to continue to improve off of what they did this year.
By the way, back to let's talk more about Garfield. As you can see, well, my head's in the way.
Yeah, Mike's wearing the Garfield shirt this week.
Michael Jordan made a little change. He
changes his shirt, I think, every week. He's like the elf on the shelf that moves every day. Mike changes his shirt every week.
Well, Mike's got to stay fresh.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to give a shout out to Anthony Dema, who became the record holder for single season rush yards for Garrettsville Garfield in that win over Liberty. And they have a playoff game coming up. They will play. Let's see, in the Sandy Valley, I believe, Saturday at 7. Hosting Sandy Valley, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe so, because odds are Saturdays, evens are Sundays, or Fridays, I mean.
Fridays are even, Saturdays are odds.
Yep. So, yeah, Division 5, and Sandy Valley was 13, I believe, going into it. So, yeah, it would be 4 versus 13. It will be hosting Sandy Valley.
We will get this all cleared up, hopefully, with Dana. But there are several games on Saturday that will be moved to day games because of the light situation with whatever stadium they're at. I saw several updates this weekend. I'm trying to get a lockdown on which games I saw. But I do know that there are going to be a handful of games, and this happens every playoffs. you're going to give the host team the field advantage, but some stadiums don't have lights. It's just the nature of the thing. I know Gilmore Academy is going to have to play their home game at 1:00 on Saturday.
Yeah,
because of light situation at Gilmore. I can't exactly remember which one of our teams is playing Gilmore Academy, but I know I'm pretty sure one of them is.
Yeah, and I mean the light situation. I mean, we're gonna probably see a few teams like that because just some high schools don't have the fields to support that when they hosted, and that's kind of why they, we didn't have that issue when we had neutral hosting sites. So I mean, some instances we're just gonna have to be adjusted, and they're doing so accordingly.
Another thing, and this is also from our partner over at Dana Balish, that Beaver Local and Glenville playoff game will be played at Collinwood High School. Newton Falls against Crestview will begin at 1:30. That's from Bel Air Athletics. Nelson Field against Crestview Rebels. I'm sorry, Nelson Field at Nelson Field against Bel Air. So Bel Air, Crestview going to Bel Air. Sorry for all that confusion. I saw the name of the field was awfully close to Newton Falls. That's why I said Newton Falls.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, I'm pretty sure.
My vision isn't the best. I'm working on it. Nielsen Field is where Bel Air plays, and that game will be at 1:30. Crestview going to Bel Air.
Yeah, and you know what? Those 5 versus 12s I always said are going to be interesting matchups. And what we've seen from Bel Air this year, 9-1 football team, they're going to be very tough. But I think Crestview's starting to peak at the right time. And I think Bel Air is going to have their work cut out for them. But they've had a heck of a schedule, and they've come out on top on a lot of big games.
I think Crestview can just bring a fresh prince, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go. I think Anthony Cusick's a pretty close representation of a fresh prince.
Rockland Batura, pretty
the football field come Saturday.
Rockland Batura, he's pretty fresh,
Yeah, they're gonna come into the stadium and pretty fresh, I think, on Saturday.
In Wethersfield, born and raised.
Yeah. Get out of here.
All right, let's move on and break down some of these playoff matchups. I know we're so excited about the pairings being official. Go through some of our divisions and some of the biggest matchups you see going on in our YSN family.
Yeah, we could go through each individual region that we cover, and starting off with Division 2, I think the only one we have left now that Boardman is unfortunately out as the 17th seed. It's going to be a rematch of last week, and I'm going to be there. It's going to be Fitch versus Harding, but this time it's at Fitch. What do you do in a situation like this? What a storyline that almost a year to the day, Fitch beats Harding after losing in the playoffs. And now almost the same exact storyline where Fitch beat Harding 2 years in a row in the regular season. Harding got Fitch back in the playoffs, and now it's again Greenwood Chevrolet Stadium, Harding at Fitch in the playoffs. Win or go home now.
You were there last week. You can answer this because you saw the whole game. Do you think both teams had their whole playbook kind of out there, or do you think there were some things held back by both teams, knowing that the first round playoff matchup was a possibility?
It's hard to say if there was anything held back when you pull off onside kicks and when Harding was pulling off fourth down fakes and stuff like that. But both Coach Arnold and Coach Parker, wizards at offense, absolute wizards at coming up with offensive game plans that can just figure out some of the best defenses. Coach Arnold's been doing it for a long time over there at Harding, and a lot of respect goes out to the program that he's helped build. And Coach Parker now in his second year with Fitch, we've seen unafraid to take those chances, unafraid to take those risks. And I think we see week to week, he's always pulling something out of his bag of tricks and surprising everybody and what else he could come up with offensively. And that goes from changing backs almost every week, changing receiver formations and schemes, and just finding and putting the best guys in the best placement. And that's going to be the biggest thing now. How do you adjust playing a team you just played a week ago? What adjustments can you make? The book is out on each other, you would feel, because now there's I don't know how many more fakes or anything you could pull on one another. You might just see these two teams have to just go in and play football. and that leaves a little to be desired, and who knows what could happen on this one. It's going to definitely be interesting.
You said it. Both these teams are so dynamic on offense. They can do a lot of different things. Maybe this week we should maybe break down some film of these two and just see some offensive sets that Fitch runs out and Harding runs out, and just try to kind of gather it all in to try to give our audience some evidence of what we're talking about, because we can just sit here and say, oh, they run different stuff, but when you actually show, like, here's a bunch formation, here's, they're putting this guy in motion, it's a different running back, things like that. I mean, the things that TJ Parker comes up with on offense, he's like a mechanic back there just tweaking things,
Yeah, and this is going to be a heck of a playoff matchup. I'm so excited for it. I think the Austintown community is excited and nervous for it, and with good reason. But you played last week to earn this opportunity this week. You got it at your home field. It's in Greenwood Chevrolet Stadium now. Now, I mean, everything's on the line. You got it at home. You got a little bit of an easier path with having that home playoff matchup. Now you just got to perform.
There's a lot to be said about the OHSAA and a lot of, grumbling, but the one thing you can't blame them for is the actual pairings and how the numbers broke down. So, I mean, unlike the college game where you can say, oh man, I can't believe you scheduled us to play someone that we've played twice in the playoffs or whatever. You can't really, the numbers broke down where they broke down. It just happens to be luck of the draw.
It's just a perfect coincidence that
Fitch and Harding are playing each other in the first round of the playoffs.
In week 11, right after playing in week 10. It is only perfect coincidence that you play the same team back-to-back weeks.
People will say, well, in the last year's the last regular season's playoffs, well, Warren Harding wouldn't make it. Well, yeah, but in the last regular season playoff, Fitch would have to be playing the 2 seed in the first round too. So careful what you wish for there.
Yeah, exactly. That would match him up with a Nordonia team, 8-2 Nordonia team. That would be a heck of a matchup. But this is one, though. I mean, you've proven you can beat them. Who makes the better adjustments? Because you have a week-long halftime now between round 1 and round 2.
Here's the thing. Like, my opinion, I would just be like, we're not going to get crazy. We're not going to get out of ourselves this week. They know what we have. We know what they have. Let's just strap up and say, here's what we have. You know it, but try to stop it anyway.
I mean, what they did last week worked.
I think the team that gets more in their heads and more trying to change things around and say, well, we have to trick them now, that's the team that's going to lose, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, Fitch, to be honest, shouldn't have to change a whole lot. Make some adjustments. Obviously, no. Warren Harding's probably going to come out with a little bit different looks on offense, trying to save themselves those turnovers from last week. But offensively, Fitch has to be pretty happy with what they were able to do, scoring 42 points, and that was with Devin Sherwood giving up a fumble and an interception. So if you're scoring 42 points
at all, I mean, we were hanging on this kid all week last week about how he protects the football.
Yeah, and I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over. So when Warren Harding's forcing a couple turnovers and I believe a couple punts off of Fitch too, and Fitch is still putting up 42 points, that's showing a lot about the Falcons' offense and how far they've come.
So then we have to go to Division 3 and talk about these pairings. And we had some shakeups in Division 3, I'm sure, over the weekend. Why don't you go through some of the teams and who they're going to play?
Yeah, it's going to be number 4, Canfield, as 4 will play the 13 seed, and they're going to be facing Notre Dame Cathedral Latin as it's 5-5 NDCL versus the 9-1 Canfield Cards.
That's a tough pairing too, because that 5-5 record is so misleading, because we all know that Notre Dame Cathedral Latin plays a tough schedule, and they're going to be well tested.
Their losses this year against a 7-3 opponent, 9-1 opponent, 8-2, 7-2, 6-1.
And I'm sure they're probably all, or at least most of them in their schedule, upper division teams.
Yep, they lost to a Division II South team. They've lost to a Division III Kenston, a Division II Walsh Jesuit, a Division III Padua Franciscan, and they have also lost to Villa Angela St. Joseph, one of the best in Division IV.
That's once again.
So a very good quality team Canfield's going to have to face, but we knew Division III was going to be a gauntlet to get through.
This was a point I brought up when 16 teams were kind of introduced. I said there are going to be teams that are going to get these lower seeds with their records that play ridiculous schedules that are going to make some noise. Canfield, they're not in for
You
a
wanna-
walkover 4 versus 13 matchup.
Dover has to play St. Vincent St. Mary, and Dover's the 2nd seed. They have to play number 15 St. Vincent St. Mary in round 1. And St. Vincent St. Mary, 4-6, but they've played some of the best opponents in the area, too.
We all saw what they did to Ursuline, so we
saw what they were able to do to Ursuline. I mean, losses against Aurora, 8-2, 9-1 Barberton. I mean, Warren Harding, Hoban, Bishop Hartley, Walsh Jesuit. Like, that's a tough draw for Dover, but that's another instance where you might see the 2nd seed drop in this division, and it's a very real possibility anytime you talk St. Vincent St. Mary. So a lot of things can be changed, and the landscape in 1 week can shift dramatically in Division 3.
Let's talk about the rest of Division 3 too.
Our last matchup that we have in Division 3 that is under YSN's coverage is going to be our Hubbard, number 5 seed, going up against number 12 New Philadelphia. And we saw Canfield meet New Philadelphia earlier, able to shut them out. But we know New Philly brings a very tough defense, and that's going to be a challenge Hubbard's going to need to try to overcome.
Hubbard has to have a short memory. I mean, they took one to the chin on Friday night. They got to kind of saddle up and regroup. They can't let that fester.
No, not at all. Because if you do, I mean, that's an easy way to be one and done in the playoffs. And you're a number 5 seed. You're hosting the playoff game, and like Anthony Romo said too, if the best teams are able to improve off of losses, and it can actually help make them better. And if getting shut out doesn't help you find some ways to get better and try to shore up some chinks in your armor, I don't know what will. So I think this is a case where New Philadelphia might be running into the wrong opponent at the wrong time.
I don't think I want to put to bed the chatter of, well, South Range put out a formula to beat Hubbard. I think every other team had the same game plan as South Range did. South Range just had the tools to put it together. So I don't think there was some magical formula that South Range figured out on Friday night and put out a formula. I'm pretty sure game plan stopping the run was pretty much the same universal to every team that Hubbard plays. South Range just had the tools to kind of make that blueprint work.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some things I'm sure Hubbard would have done maybe a little bit differently going back into that game. But hey, it's the first year they were using the wing tee, and it's a situation where Hubbard is trying to, implement a new sort of offense to their game plan, and I think it's something you're going to see get revitalized, and something that you're going to see also get figured out and improved upon as years go on. But it's something where I think Hubbard, they're going to be tough to stop in the playoffs no matter what. So I expect the same.
We will continue our playoff discussion as the show goes on and as the week goes on. We have until Friday really to keep talking about these playoff matchups. But right now, we got to switch to the future into hoop news because we have Lee Knepp, the head coach of the Sebring boys basketball team, joining us. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today.
You are so welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Coach, I want to talk to you a little bit about where this program is heading, because I think there's no doubt some very good young talent that you guys are bringing back this year. Some guys that you had depart last year. I know I was there for that big shot over Springfield. I had the call with what Matt Bird was able to do as one of those ones. But looking at what your team is, what you're presuming bringing back this year, what are some kind of names to watch out for and some young guys that you think are going to be taking that next step?
Sure. We had our top 7 guys graduated last year from that were seniors. We bring back Elijah Frederick. He's a lone returning letterman. He's an excellent football player. His brother Noah is also coming out for the basketball team, so that's another name to look for. We have a big senior class that we're excited about. We have a couple different guys in the mix there. Andrew Latham, again, Noah Frederick, Elijah Frederick, Gabe Bertolini, Kyan Welty, Akias Ketchum, and Jake Funk. There's some other seniors. A couple juniors in the mix are Cade Shepard, Scott Boston, Cade Leisure, and then also sophomore Dustin Black. So those are we have about 10 or 12 guys that we feel comfortable with right now, and we're excited to get rolling here this Friday with our first practice.
Yeah. With so many new faces, like you said, you graduated so many seniors. How excited are you to kind of get everyone into the gym together and kind of finally see exactly what you got and start to work on what to do and how to game plan this season?
Yeah, absolutely. Got hired late May, so we were fortunate enough to get into open gyms and some open gyms and practices over the summer. We used those as mini camp dates, and we participated in the Columbiana Summer League and also a couple of shootouts. So got to know the guys, try to build our philosophies and our different principles offensively and defensively, and just build good relationship with the guys. So we're excited about that. We have a lot of guys playing football right now, so we've been a little limited with our open gyms here in the fall, but again, we're excited to get started soon.
Yeah, and we know that as football season was continuing, there's a little bit of a jet lag period in between that of getting players. But talking about that and talking about the culture that you wanna build here, what do you want it to mean when your players say, "I'm a Trojan"? What do you want it to mean to be a Trojan?
Yeah, we talk about the different core values of our program here. Some of the things that Coach Brooke laid the foundation on, and Coach Clark, very fortunate enough to follow their leadership. And, Coach Clark's still in the building. He's the athletic director. So it's been a smooth transition. But as far as our guys, we want them to compete every day, compete in everything that they do, give great effort, have great attitudes. Those are two things that we can control every day. We're trying to hold each other accountable and be great teammates here. And obviously, we want to continue to improve each day. You can either get better or you can get worse, and those are the things that we can control. So we want to try to get better every day and keep on getting better. So, yep.
We always say besides the winter, the summer months are pretty much really the most important months for a basketball team. Talk about your summer, how it went, some of the things that you saw from your guys, and some of the things that get you really excited for this season.
Yeah, so when we started off with some open gyms, a couple of days a week, we did some team bonding activities. We had some meals along the way. So we had like a Taco Tuesday, Wing Wednesday. We had some after our summer league games in Columbiana County. We bonded. We got some ice cream. So that was really cool, just to bond as a team, and we were just really excited about everything that we're looking forward to. Just getting into our system. It's been a little bit of a work in progress. Try to get better defensively, talk about those different principles and all that. So we have some work to do, but we've took steps in the right directions over the summer and a little bit this fall, and we're going to try to continue to build on that each day.
What are some goals you want to see play out for the team this season? And it could be within any kind of category, but I mean, if you want to highlight the growth of the team too, you can do that as well.
Yeah, just learn how to compete, be a good teammate, and improve our skills. All the fundamentals here, just the little things like that. They add up to the big picture, and we want to seek that improvement. We're going to try to obviously compete and win as many games as we can, but be competitive and give ourselves a chance to win in the fourth quarter.
Let's talk about your schedule and some of the teams that you're really excited to kind of compete with. Obviously, the league and the MVAC is tough. What about your non-conference schedule too, and some of the teams that you're really excited about getting to square up with?
Yeah, the MVAC Scarlet tier it's a very good basketball conference. D3, D4 schools. Obviously, there's a lot of traditions, a lot of great coaches and programs. So we're excited about that. Non-league, we have Latonia, United. We were going to play Marlington up at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. That's my alma mater. I was really excited about that over MLK Day, but unfortunately it got canceled. So we had to do a makeup game. But I was really excited about playing the Dukes up there and then go to the Cavs game. That would have been a great basketball experience for our guys. I think we play Latonia. We started off with Latonia, Chalker, Kingsway Christian twice, Latonia twice, and Cortland Maplewood. So those are all teams that we're excited about playing against this season.
Talking a little bit about the players you talked about, and you talked about obviously Elijah Frederick being one of the returning letter winners. What does it mean to you knowing that you have that kind of player that already embraces the tradition of Sebring with the football team that's kind of already being implemented as one of your core leaders for this season?
Yeah, we're excited to have Elijah be one of our leaders. We saw it a little bit over the summer, and I've noticed it at the football games and talking to Coach Seidel, and He's a great locker room guy, and we're excited to have him and his brother Noah. They're very competitive. They do in the drills and anything along with their skill development and basketball, and I know they are in football and any sport from what I've heard and what I've seen. So it's nice to have both of them as seniors, and they've come up through the program. They're homegrown guys that have been within our program since the 7th grade and even youth basketball. So we're excited about having Elijah continue to be part of our program.
Talk a little bit about the Sebring community and how much you've kind of been diving into what it means to be a Trojan outside of the basketball team and the support that you guys get from the community and what you're expecting from this year now that we kind of see full capacity being allowed in these gyms again.
Yeah, Sebring, it's known for its basketball as a proud program, 3 Final Fours, and if you look up at the banners up on the wall, there's so many different sectional champions, district champions, regional champs, and if you go into Brook Gym, it's so legendary over there. It's like you're in the movie Hoosiers. So there's Coach Brooks' pictures up on the wall up there. It's just a great feeling, and the people in the community have been very supportive and great. I've got to meet them in many different functions and events, and I'm excited to be part of it.
As far as like where you guys are as in the younger guys that you've seen, what are some of those strengths that you're seeing from the younger guys already that you've been impressed with on the basketball court?
I think coachability. These guys are starting to buy into what we're preaching. Assistant coaches here, so just being able to be coachable and having pretty good attitudes and giving good effort. So from that standpoint, I really like that. And we still got some room to grow, obviously, but the coachability has been a very big help and for our team.
Basketball is a sport that lends itself to so many different styles and ways you can go about game planning and ways to kind of have your strengths. When you look at your coaching style and what you think you want this Sebring team to look like, what are some things that you think you guys can really excel at and some styles that you can really run at?
Yeah, we have a lot of different, obviously with a pretty decent sized lineup there, 10 to 12 guys that we feel comfortable playing. We have different personnel lineups, and we can play different styles of basketball. It might be a half court game, possession game. That's what I'm used to from Coach McBride at Lake. That's where I coached at before. So, playing in the Federal League, being one of the smaller schools and maybe not as big as some of those other schools, we made it a possession game. So that's something that we might do at Sebring. We also have some pretty athletic guards that we might, bring some pressure and full court press, trapping and whatnot. So it all depends on the opponent that we're playing and what the, fit to the needs of our personnel.
What is the biggest thing you've learned about yourself since you started coaching basketball until now at this point?
The biggest thing, just continue to improve my craft, I guess. Just learning from other coaches. I've had some great mentors along the way. Obviously Coach McBride at Lake, his nephew, Kyle McBride, I coached with him. He's at Barberton now. And another good friend of mine, Luke Conley, we coached together at Lake. He's the head coach at Canton South. So there's been a lot of coaches that have helped me grow along the way. And I know I can continue to get better as well.
Well, what's your favorite thing about coaching at this level and getting to coach high school age students and watch them grow through 4 years into the program?
And just building those positive relationships with them. Being first year here at Sebring, it's been great. Good senior class, but also there's underclassmen. I've even got the opportunity to meet the youth players, and that's something I really wanted to instill here is player development at all levels. So we've worked with our youth players, our junior high players, and obviously our high school players, but just building those positive relationships with them and keeping them excited about playing basketball and what it means to be a Sebring Trojan and committed to our program and invested. So that's been a real positive thing for me so far. And I really look forward to being part of this program for as many years as possible.
All right, Coach, my final question for you. We already we did a meet the team session. We kind of highlighted some aspects for it. My final question now, let's meet the rest of the coaches. Shout out some of the assistants that you have on your program, as well as some other big names that help out with this program that are going to be big helps this year.
Sure. My varsity assistant is Cameron Casey. He's a 2018 grad of Lake Lake Blue Streaks here at Lake High School. So I coached him in junior high, and he came through our program and played under Coach McBride. And then he coached on our staff last year at Lake. So he's real knowledgeable, and we're trying to bring some of the things that we did at Lake over here to Sebring. So he's been a great asset to our team. The JV coach is Joe Davis. He's a Sebring grad. He was the varsity assistant last year under Coach Clark. He came up through the ranks as a junior high coach, and now he's a high school coach, and he's a really good players coach. He knows the kids, knows the community. So we're real excited about him. And then at the junior high level, we have Mike Harshman, another Sebring local or Sebring grad. He graduated in the late 80s, played under Coach Brook. So he knows what it means to be a Sebring Trojan, and real knowledgeable and real helpful in that way. And then the 7th grade coach is Isaac Rooflin. He is the 7th grade coach. I coach with him over at Lake, and he's real knowledgeable as well. So he'll be a good piece of that our program at the junior high level. And then we have 2 elementary coaches. We have they graduated last year from Sebring, Connor Shepard and Andrew Lamp. So they know what it means to be a Trojan, and they're excited about helping out our program as well.
Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We love hearing from you. We love getting a little preview of Sebring boys basketball. And good luck in the preseason, getting ready for it. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again real soon as the season goes on.
All right, I appreciate you guys having me on today.
That was Lee Knepp, the head boys basketball coach over at Sebring, the new boys basketball coach. And man, did he step into a program that looks very promising. I think what he said was spot on. They're going to have the ability to play a lot of different styles of basketball because of the versatile athletes they have. If they have to play a fast-paced game because that's what the game plan dictates, and that's what they'll be able to do. But if they have to play a half-court kind of style game and hold the ball and be possession-heavy, they can do that as well.
Yeah, and with all due respect to Coach Seidel, and I mean, I love what he's doing over there in that program. Coach Knepp is right that this school, Sebring, and Coach Seidel will tell you, and he's told me, giving me tours in Sebring, this is a basketball school, and it has a rich history of basketball and basketball success. And I think Coach Knepp stepping into his first year there, I think he can bring a lot to this program. And it might be early stages where you might see kind of being like a building year this year. Maybe not. It all depends on how far those young guys are in development. But like we kind of discussed, I think having the Fredericks there, leadership ability and what they've been able to bring inside the locker room of the football team, I think having just that type of leadership as mentors for those younger guys on this team is going to be huge for the Sebring program.
Well, they were probably the biggest upset of the year last year, and everyone remembers that call that you got to have. Shocker.
Yeah. No, that was a big game, and for Matt Bird at the time, hitting that 3 over a Springfield team that was about to win the league championships, and it prevented them from doing so.
Not so fast.
Yeah, and I mean, Sebring has a history of beating Springfield in that gym, especially in basketball. That's one where they get to bite them back for the football season. So it's a case where we've seen Sebring can beat these competitive teams. Can they just put it all together for a season? And I think if they can, you'll see it. And it came down to in the playoffs too. Matt Bird almost made the same shot to send them to the next round, and it missed by that much.
I remember
that much. And I believe it was Jackson Milton that they played, because it was Jackson Milton and Western Reserve with the winner facing Sebring.
Yeah. And I remember that Jackson Milton Western Reserve tournament game because that was the 3rd installment. And that was a huge rivalry. I'll never forget going to Jackson Milton for the second regular season matchup. And, Jackson Milton wins the game. I'm going off the air. And then all of a sudden there's this like big package being pulled out of the athletics office. And they're having a big meeting in center court, and I'm like, what's going on here? I better stay on the air because they might be giving out an award to somebody, and then I'll come to my knowledge, that's a trophy game. Like they give a trophy out to the winner of the second regular season matchup. No, so it has nothing to do with who wins the season matchup. It's just whoever wins the second matchup between those two teams in the regular season gets the trophy. So
yeah, and it was a huge.
Let's see, and then they got to play each other again in the tournament. I believe Jackson Milton won that one too.
They did, and I was on the call for that one as well, so that's why I remember it. And Coach Seidel was with me, so to connect everything we're talking about, Sebring to everything, it all
comes together.
Yeah, it all comes together, and it all culminates just for me to say, watch out for that Sebring basketball program coming up. I think Coach Knapp's going to do a great job there. I think what he's bringing to this program is going to head it in the right direction, and I think they have the right pieces to start building.
And one last thing to bring up about the Sebring boys program, and this might sound kind of crazy, but I think one of the best times to have a new coach come in is when you lose a big senior class, because now you can have a bunch of kids that almost have to buy into your philosophy because they don't know too much of the other one. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes it's hard to get seniors who have been coached by someone for 3 years to buy into a new coach's philosophy. Not always, but sometimes that can be a struggle. And if the seniors don't buy in, the underclassmen will never buy in. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things.
And like Coach said too, Coach Clark is still in the program, so I mean that's an easier transition.
And he's an athletic director now, so it's an easier transition, and it'll be fine. I don't think it will be like most one-year coaches that have to really dive into building a program and everything. But I think, like I said, I think sometimes coming into a program that loses a big class can be a good thing for you.
It definitely can be. And the biggest thing, too, on top of the fact of having a lot of younger guys on this team is the fact that if your seniors, if your Fredericks buy in, then everyone's going to follow suit. And the thing is, the Fredericks are great locker room guys, and you expect them to buy into the program because that's just the type of athletes that they are.
You know what I think about these? They'd buy into anything if it's going to give them the win, because they're such great competitors. I mean, a coach could come up to them and say, "Hey, you have to eat green eggs and ham every day, but we'll win."
And you know what the great thing about what the Fredericks can do? And if Knapp is playing that methodical half-court approach on offense, the great thing about what the Fredericks can do, they can get out and run if you need them to. So you need to do a quick change of pace like that. That's the thing. The Fredericks are phenomenal athletes. So they will get out there and run.
We know the Fredericks can run. We see very evident every week in the season that they can run for sure.
And that's going to be a huge, I think, factor in seeing what Sebring's able to do if they can do that quick change of pace on offense and go from that slow, methodical half-court approach to getting out in transition and running and trying to get some buckets in that fast break.
Interested to see how good of a shooting team they'll be. They lost some really big perimeter shooters. You know, Matt Bird, obviously. They're going to have to be able to knock down shots from the outside against some of these MVAC teams that have really big inside presences. I mean, Western Reserve, Sebring, Springfield, they have guys in the paint that can really clog up your driving lane. So you're going to have to be able to knock down shots from the perimeter.
And you also need to knock down shots from the perimeter just to compete with some of these teams. And we know McDonald historically is going to rein them in from distance. Waterloo, another team that when they have shooters, they're going to rein them in from distance. So this is an MVAC too that doesn't just play that old school style of high school ball. They can play new age basketball and what we call higher division basketball, where they can run and gun and they can knock down threes. So just being able to match threes with threes is going to be big, I think, for Sebring too.
I guess when we're talking about basketball, and we have a little bit of time before we take a break and get ready for Mr. Dana Balish from 21 WFMJ, I will kind of break. I mean, it's not breaking news anymore because it was announced last week. The OHSAA did approve a running clock for the regular season for basketball if a game goes above. I believe it's 35 in the second half. It will be a running clock. Now, this has been a thing in tournament time for basketball. They've had this for a while for tournaments. Now it's going to be in the regular season as well. So it's going to be something that you'll see if games get out of hand, that clock will not stop running outside of a timeout or an injury or whatever it may be. So other than a timeout, nothing will stop that clock.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I'm kind of on the fence about if I like it or not. It makes sense in a way to try to get players off the court and prevent injuries, but the kids are also there to play too. So it's like it feels like you're taking a lot of playing time away from them. I don't know. It's kind of something I've kind of tossed and turned with.
Here's my thought. Like, coach, whether they want to admit it or not, coaches know when they're going into games where they're going to be up by 35 or more. You have plenty of opportunities to put your young kids into the game before.
That's what I'm saying too.
I think it's going to take away some of the scores that we saw last year that really got people upset. You're 101s to 8. Hopefully that doesn't. I mean, I wasn't badgering teams that did it last year because I know that they put in their JVs and they weren't pressing anymore. They were just coaching their kids, and they weren't going to tell their kids stop playing. So, I mean, it just happened. So I'm not going to be here and be like 101 to 8 is so bad. You should feel terrible for doing it. But I know it got backlash, and this will probably prevent that from happening.
That's also something that when it happened, when we had those big scores, it was something that I asked a lot of those area coaches when I would go to these different schools. I would ask them their opinions on it, and every coach surprisingly will tell you a different answer on whether or not they thought it's disrespectful to keep running your program and running your offense, and if you can't stop me, then you can't stop me. Or if they take the foot off the gas on offense, but will still play hard on defense. I've heard a variety of answers, and honestly, it's not a one size fits all kind of thing for what the philosophy is on that. But OHSAA is trying to make it a one size fits all and just stamp it and say, here's the case, here's what we're doing.
Just for future reference, here's what I would do in that situation if I was a varsity basketball coach and I was handling a team. I would make sure my varsity starters are not in the game anymore, obviously. I would have my JVs in, the young players that get them experience, but I would not say we're not going to do what you're going to do in varsity. Like, I would not tell my JVs just hold the ball or play a very weak zone that if I never play it. Because I want to get those kids ready for what they're going to see on the varsity level in a couple of years or next year, whatever it may be. So I would say, hey, my young kids are in. I can't put 8th graders in, so the youngest kids I can put in are in. But I'm not going to get out of my coaching philosophy or my offensive or defense philosophy with my young kids, because then what are they doing out there? They're not learning anything.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that. I also kind of like Coach Gunther's philosophy from Ursuline boys basketball program, where he's always kind of been like, he kind of puts in those younger guys too. And if he's winning by a lot, he doesn't tell them, like, don't push the pace on offense. Still, we'll run our game plan, but we're not pushing to score anymore. But his biggest thing is you never let up on defense, and you play hard on defense no matter what the score is.
Here's the thing. If you teach a team that that's all right, and then all of a sudden there's going to be a tournament game where they're up by 18 or 17 or something like that. They're going to let up. And then all of a sudden that team's going to come back, and you're going to be like, well, we taught that. Like we taught our kids that we should let up when we're up by a lot.
Yeah. And Coach Gunther's one of those guys, though. It's all about, though, respect for the game. Right. And that's the biggest thing. And his thing is when you're up, and I think it's like once you're up by over like 30s or something like that anyway, you don't want to just embarrass a team, and you don't want to disrespect the game by putting more points up on somebody at that point. And I mean, it's also, don't do to someone what you don't want done to you, because those teams that are putting up 60 plus and continuing to score, when it comes back to bite you,
right, you better take it. You better take it.
Yeah, you better take it when you're losing by 30 and they're not taking their foot off the gas and they're just putting it to you.
We had the discussion when we were talking about way back in Running Point before the high school season began, and we were just talking about national sports because we didn't have much to talk about. When we talked about the NFL taunting rule, like, you can do it, but you better be able to take it when it's turned, when the tables have turned, Yeah.
And that's kind of my my thought process on the whole thing. But hey, in this aspect, OHSA puts in the rule so you don't see those scores that get out of hand. I just kind of think it's a shame that you have to put in a rule to stop the few people that are doing it. And it's unfortunate that a few people can't respect the game, but I think it's more unfortunate that we're making a bunch of teams and kids adhere to rules just to meet the standards of a few.
A running clock is a lot better than some of the rules you see in other states, where it's like, you cannot win a game by more than this or you will be fined. And
that's insane.
It's in Nevada, where you, like, teams are almost forced to just hold the ball when they're up by 30, or else they're just not gonna be able to. So they're playing a half of basketball is what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
I don't want to get to the point where you're punishing kids for being better than the other team.
Like, yeah, and that's ridiculous, because what are you teaching the kids then about anything? So I think that just goes back to respecting your opponent. And for me, and like, I try to look at it from both sides, but for me, if I'm on that other side, if I'm on that losing side, and someone's just taking it to me, I kind of feel like it's my responsibility to stop them, and I almost feel more disrespected if you're going easy on me than if you're giving me everything you got. If I can't stop you and you're scoring on me because you're just better than me, so be it. But I don't want you to go easy on me to spare whatever you think my feelings or whatever. In this case, we're competing at that point, and if you're better than me, you're better than me.
I am with you there. We are going to take a quick break. On the other end, we will be talking to Dana Bolish, the sports director over at 21 WFMJ. Don't go anywhere on Running Point. Brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring. And, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, shop with confidence knowing we're ready to go the extra mile for you. With the largest selection of used vehicles in the Valley, backed by the Greenwood Advantage Warranty. Every one of our vehicles has undergone our own 126-point inspection, so it passes the most important inspection, yours. No other dealership has the extra inventory, gives you extra for your trade, and goes the extra mile for you. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the four words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
For a great vehicle and a great experience, come to Boardman Mitsubishi today. As always, our full lineup of Mitsubishi models comes with a standard 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Boardman Mitsubishi, your hometown Mitsubishi dealer since 1999.
Coca's Pizza, always supporting our community and our local athletes. Stop in on game day or score big and have it delivered right to your door. Check out our daily specials at cocaspizza.com. That's Coca's Pizza, we serve it hot.
At Hubbard Chevrolet, Hubbard can help you get the financing you need regardless of your situation. I'm Tony Page, and I've helped thousands of customers in Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania buy a vehicle. Visit HubbardChevy.com to get pre-approved. Remember, folks, Hubbard can help.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education, and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University and proud.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell. Like every week at 1 o'clock on Mondays, we are going to be talking to Dana Ballas, the sports director over at 21 WFMJ Sports. Dana, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Happy to be here, Anthony. I hope everything's well.
We are all doing good. It's a Monday after week 10, and we have the playoffs set. As you look at these pairings, what matchups kind of jump out at you here in week 1 of the playoffs?
Well, I've been doing this for a long time, and I think the matchups that always intrigue me are the all-local matchups, and we have 3 of those, in week 1 of the playoffs. A rematch from 6 days, or from last Friday, which will be, 7 days when they play Harding and Fitch. They met in the playoffs last year, kind of the same scenario, and they played in the regular season in 2020. Fitch won the game. Now, it was only 6 weeks. They met a couple of weeks later last year where Harding, beat them in the playoffs. Fitch won the game on Friday. They play again 7 days. And this has happened before. I know Ursuline and Mooney in the mid-'90s this happened. And this is always intriguing because, it's the old adage, it's always tough to beat a team 2 times in the same season and so on and so forth. We have another matchup, Springfield and Western Reserve. They met in week 8 where Springfield won 42-0. Another matchup there, second time around, a rematch, so to speak. Then United and Brookfield, an 8-9 seed, which intrigues me a little bit. Brookfield playing some good football. Obviously, United, getting that 8 seed in that home playoff game. So those local matchups are really the ones that I look forward to.
This is our first taste of playoffs that are 16 teams, of course. And as you look at some of these pairings, there are some teams that are seeded 10 or higher that don't have the greatest record, but because of their tough schedule, could make some noise in this playoffs. I mean, I'm talking like Notre Dame Cathedral Latin playing Canfield. They play almost exclusively D2 and D3 teams. You look at St. Vincent St. Mary, who's a 15 seed. I mean, there are some high seeds because of their schedules that could make some loud noise in these playoffs.
Well, and again, I mean, the playoffs are the second season, kind of what coaches say, maybe even the third season, because you have your scrimmages and then the regular season, and then the third season. I mean, I think we have more than 70 teams statewide with losing records, and I know that will be a topic of controversy. I really haven't dissected the brackets to see the 16-1 matchups, to see if there's any chance, there could be a 16 or even a 15 that knocks off a 2 seed. It's going to be interesting to see what high seed, and what I mean by high seed, well, I should say low seed. What low seed knocks off, a high seed, and I'm going to, it's going to be interesting in a state trend to kind of look at that. But this is the second season. 22 teams are in. I think I counted on Saturday where the number of teams didn't change. It was just some positioning. But if the playoffs were 8 teams, we'd have 14 in, and we'd have some, local matchups. I mean, if it was 8 teams, Hubbard and Canfield would be playing, which I think would be a great matchup. We would have, I think Ursuline and Salem playing in a local matchup if we were back to 8 teams, and and again, it is what it is. I mean, there'll be topics of conversation about this until the playoffs end.
Do you think if we see a couple of upsets, like you said, from the high seeds to the low seeds, the perception of this playoffs will change and maybe some opinions will be changed? Or do you think some people will just think of it as too many teams no matter what happens upset-wise?
Well, I think if you're a fan of a 16, 15, or 14 and you upset someone, I mean, of course you're going to like it. But, I think you got to look at the trends. I think you have to look at, how many games go to continuous clock in the second half, how many blowouts there are, And when I say a blowout, I mean, my definition of a blowout is the continuous clocks, the 30 points or so. I think coaches look. If you're a coach and you're a 13 seed and you win, you're going to love it. If you get beat, well, we should have been here anyway, really. So I think after the first week, we really got to look at the trends, and even in the second week, because the second week in 2 years ago would have been the first week. So, the next 2 weeks I think are going to be very, very interesting from a trend set to see, just what happens with these higher seeds.
I know you haven't had much time to dissect the brackets, as you said, but do you see any teams that might be on upset alert in the first round of the playoffs?
Well, I think, I think anytime you get to this point, you got to be on upset alert because, look, everyone's human. I mean, Fitch and Harding, look, Fitch beat them by 12 points. That's going to be in the minds of both teams. Did Fitch play that well or did Harding play, not as well? I mean, that's the nice thing about these types of games. I think anytime, you're the one seed, you got a target on your back. Yeah, but when you have 16, I mean, I don't know how big that target can be. Notre Dame Cathedral Latin is 5-5. They're going to play at Canfield, which I think is a very interesting matchup. Ursuline will be at, Ursuline's going to be home. They're home to Canton South, who's 7-3, who we kind of see, some glimpses of Canton South. The 8-9 matchups are supposed to be, the most even ones. Crestview, they got to go to Belair. That's going to be a Saturday afternoon game, to my understanding. That's an interesting matchup. Beaver Local got to go to Glenville, where they're going to play it at Collinwood, on Friday night. Girard's going to go to Gilmore Academy in Division 5. That game's going to be a Saturday afternoon game because Gilmore doesn't have lights. So, all those intangibles, I think what teams are not accustomed to, always kind of, you're used to playing nights, now you're going to play in an afternoon game. That may not seem like a lot, but I think, it can be a lot.
And you just brought out the games that have been either moved to Saturday afternoon. Do you think that has to be an advantage home team? I mean, Gilmore Academy obviously used to playing afternoon games because they don't have lights. So,
first of all, they got a great facility up there. It's a turf field. Their baseball facility is fantastic. I think, anytime you play at home, it's an advantage because you don't got to get on a bus and travel. Cleveland, Glenville, and Beaver Local. I mean, that's going to be at Collinwood High School. So that's going to be at a place that Glenville has not played at, to my knowledge, this year. So again, it's just getting familiar, the unfamiliarity of playing at a different time and, not at a different location because look, the football fields are the same size. It's just getting that, that first quarter kind of, out, so you could, because it's all adjustments in the first quarter, it's adjusting to this, adjusting to that, then play the final 36 minutes.
Okay, so we've asked you about the teams that could be on upset alert. Let's talk about the teams that have really impressed you the most and you think are poised for maybe a deep playoff run.
Well, in no specific order, I think Warren JFK being in Division 7, I mean, they beat down a pretty good Southeast team 35-0. I think they're on the upswing a little bit. They've only played 8 games. I think they're in good position. I mean, Brady Shannon, again, I think, he's the best quarterback in the area right now. Could throw it on a dime, has the build. Cardinal Mooney obviously is struggling this year, and Ursuline did what they had to do with them. But, when you got Dean Boyd and McElroy and some of the backs that Ursuline has, I mean, I think in Division 4, that's going to be a very interesting region because you got some high-powered offenses in there with Ursuline and West Branch, and I think you could throw Salem in there. I mean, Division 5, a lot of people talking about South Range, especially, with what they did, against Hubbard last Friday. But again, you got to keep in mind Kirtland's there with the 50-game winning streak. You got Garfield in there, who I think Garfield has the ingredients to really slow down a team. Like a Kirtland and like a South Range, because they run that wing tee, misdirection, and that's been their go-to for several years now. And no one's really talking about Garfield, and I think they could be the sleeper in that division. So, I think, JFK and Ursuline, I think, are my, two teams I think that, can get to the state semifinals, perhaps to the state championship game. I mean, South Range is in that tough Division 5. Division 6, I think, a lot of people are saying, can Springfield make it back? I think LeBray can pose Springfield a challenge. And let's face it, Springfield was there the last 2 years. They had a great supporting cast for their offense. I just don't know if that supporting cast is there. Has Springfield been tested this year? Yeah, in week 1. And again, with all due respect, I mean, their conference isn't very strong. So, they have 6 or 7 shutouts. They played 10 games. Probably, the frontline guys have probably played maybe, 5 games if you add up all the quarters. So, it's kind of like, for Springfield, now they have to kind of get back into that groove. But, that's why you play the games, and that's what makes it fun.
All right, before we let you go, like every week, I want to give you the chance to promote what's going to be on WFMJ Sports this week and what fans should look forward to on your airways.
Well, with all the football talk, I mean, we do have the soccer tournaments continuing. We do have the volleyball tournaments continue, so we'll keep an eye on those and get out to as many of those games as we can. Of course, Youngstown State's going to, return to action on Saturday at home against South Dakota State. The status of, the quarterback, Demetria Crenshaw, we'll know a little bit tomorrow. Wednesday, we'll preview a couple of the matchups. Thursday, we'll talk to DJ Oakley about some of the games this weekend, and Friday it's go time. So, this is, the fun time of year. Not that the regular season isn't fun time, but, the games are narrowed down a little bit now. And now it's just a matter of, it's a 1-game season for all these teams.
Go time indeed. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and we'll have you again on next week to recap the first week of the playoffs.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Anthony.
That was Dana Bullish, the sports director over at TV21, giving us his weekly thoughts of what went down on the weekend and what he thinks about the playoff picture and what could happen. Alongside Ty, will bring you back in now, and we'll have to also bring in a very special guest because we have him waiting in the green room. I love that we have a green room here on our Ysn Running Point. So we'll bring in the head coach of the South Range girls basketball program, back-to-back regional runners-up, and one of the more successful programs in the area. It is Jeff Fischel, the one that we call just simply Fish. Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here.
Oh, man, we are so happy to have you. We're excited to preview some basketball with you.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. The high school football playoffs are here, and we're allowed to start practicing, and the boys' teams can start practicing, at the end of this week. So it's Halloween, and it's time to get rolling.
Looking at the program now, and just looking at what you are going to be bringing back, and some standout players that you think are going to be from this group this year. Talk about those players that you're expecting big things from last year that are going to have to step up to fill the voids of the seniors that have now departed.
Yeah, we're certainly going to have a different look, and very fortunate for us that we get to start that with Lexi Giles, who's, she's one of the best players in the state of Ohio. She's been a great leader for us this summer. So, that's a great place to start. We've got 2 other seniors this year, Mallory Vidman and Hannah Hakinen, that we're expecting big things from. And Emma Cunningham's been big for us our freshman and sophomore year. So she's going to have some bigger shoes to fill this year as a junior. And Devin Sauerwein's back as a letter winner, that she's going to see a lot of playing time. So, we look at our roster, it's certainly going to look different than it has the past couple years, but we're excited about the talent we have there.
I mean, I think the elephant in the room is talking about you lost to Zealand Party, you lost Bree Kohler, you lose numbers wise, you didn't lose a lot of seniors. So people outside the program might be like, well, they still have a good number of people coming back. Well, you lose one of the best scorers in the state, then that team seems to do some stuff. But now you look at, like you said, a new look South Range, and maybe things that you can do now with some new faces and new people kind of stepping into the limelight. How excited are you for this kind of South Range team that is going to have some different faces shine bright under the lights?
Yeah, it's been fun, in the summer and so far in the off season as we get rolling here, figuring out our personnel and what we do well and where we can focus on those things. So we're gonna show some different looks this year that people haven't saw from us in the last 2 years, but we're still gonna try to be up tempo. We're still gonna press. We're still gonna butter our bread with what we've done well in the past, and so we'll just kind of tweak some things and make some changes and add in some things that fit our personnel. That way we're putting the girls on the court in the best situation to be successful for what they're good at.
Looking at what you have done over the summer, what are some of the strengths that you're seeing from this group of girls on the basketball court that you really are looking to exploit both offensively and defensively this year?
Well, this is a group that, I think they understand the challenges at hand, and a few of these girls have been kind of waiting, in the background for the opportunity that they're going to get now. And so our effort and determination, we had some girls that just really committed to the program in the summer because they want to be a part of our future, making it to look what our past looks like. And, what we're going to be able to do, I think, is play really well as a team and do some dynamic things because we have girls who her strengths are in different areas and they'll complement each other. And that's an exciting thing as a coach because you can kind of be creative with what you do in your game plan.
It's interesting when you look at the NE8 that you play in, obviously a very tough league in basketball, but you look at the top 3 scorers in the league are kind of all graduated from different schools. Jackie Grisdale's gone from Poland, Izzy Lamparty gone from you, and then Elia gone from Struthers. So now it's all going to be about what team kind of brings more of those role players the last couple of years to the fold and thrust them forward. How excited are you for this conference and what you think it's going to bring to your schedule this year?
Yeah, I think every night, every team in this league is going to be a battle. I think you're going to see a lot of close games, a lot of games that come down to the wire in the end of the fourth quarter. If you asked me, and you guys may get to this here shortly, if I had to pick a favorite right now in the NE8, I've always said that until somebody figures out Poland, it's going to be Poland. And even with losing Jackie, what Coach Blanche does there and with what they're getting back, they're probably still the favorite. But there are 8 teams in this conference that are going to be competitive on a nightly basis, and it's going to be a fun season.
And looking at this team and looking at what you guys you've already highlighted what you've done well and what you guys have looked at in the offseason. Talk to me a little bit about from what you've seen last year in some of the girls that you want really the biggest improvements on now going into this year for you guys to be able to take that next step and, as you alluded to, make your past or your future look more like your past.
Yeah, we have some girls, our sophomore class, Sydney Pennick, Devin Sarine, Grace McQuiston, and Liv Yeagley, that played a lot of freshman and JV games last year. Devin saw a decent amount of varsity time, but, those are 4 girls who this year for us in a varsity program are going to really have to step up and do the things that they do well. They've had great careers. They were great 7th grade players. They were great 8th grade players. And they've continued to get better every year. And, now they're to the point where they're on our varsity roster and, they're going to have to defend well. If you want to play for us, if you want minutes, you have to defend well. You've got to be a good one-on-one defender and you've got to be a good team defense defender. So those are the things that we're going to focus on the first few weeks of practice, making sure that we're ready to play defense. Offense is, we look at our roster and, we know Lexi can score, and after that, we're going to have to figure it out, and our opponents are going to know that. So Lexi's going to get some different defensive looks. So these girls are going to have to be prepared on a nightly basis for what other teams throw at us, and we'll have to adjust and adapt and figure that out. But they're excited about it. We're excited about what they bring to us, and so we're going to keep figuring out what we're good at and try to emphasize that. And we're going to figure out what we need to improve on, and we're going to focus on that on a nightly basis as far as getting better between now and the end of the season.
Coach, I've been itching to ask you this for a while. You're in your 3rd year now as the head coach, and now you really start to get the players that you have had a personal hand in developing from their freshman year when you were there or whatever it may be. How excited are you to now get to really see the program take mold in the way that you envisioned it when you took the job 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's been fun. And Anthony, you know this. When I got there, I made it a point to make sure that these girls know that, from a coaching staff standpoint, that we care about them and we have their best interests at heart. And so it's fun now that, some of the freshmen that are now juniors and again, last year's young girls that, we know each other. And so we're a little bit further into the conversations when we see each other. We can talk about school and what's going on at home and all that stuff a little bit because we're more comfortable with each other. And we understand each other from a basketball standpoint that we can jump into, some of, hey, tell me what you saw there. What were you thinking on this play conversations, a lot faster because we've established those relationships. And so, it's just a cool thing that when you're a coach and you get kids that are around, that you get to know them that way. And, that's what makes it tough when seniors graduate is because, so many of these girls, they're all daughters to me. And so when you see them move on, you wish them well, but man, time flies because I remember starting 3 years ago and, I thought Izzy and Bree and Sophia would be around forever. And, now they're off doing their thing.
And talking about those relationships, we know that coaching is a lot more than X's and O's and what happens on the court. So in doing that, I want to ask you, what is the biggest thing you hope to teach your girls outside of the sport of basketball?
Yeah, we teach them every night. And I'm going to say this, that, I've kind of learned from coaching girls the past few years, a lot of the things that girls have to deal with that boys don't have to. And, a lot of it really is unfair. And so, our message has always been to them that they're worthy. We tell them not to deal with the BS they shouldn't have to deal with. And that, they have a coaching staff that's in their corner and we support them. And so, we always talk about when you leave this place, you're going to go do special things. And I think that, from our team building standpoint, we want our girls to be leaders in the community, want them to be leaders in the classroom. And so that when they do leave those doors, whatever comes next in their life, they'll be prepared for because of how we've taken care of business here and how we've approached things. But that's important because, at the end of the day, basketball is just basketball, but there's some serious stuff that happens in life that kids need to be prepared for. And, I don't think there's a better program in the area that prepares our girls for life out after high school. I'm proud of that.
Coach, last year we saw this team go through some serious adversity, more than most teams have to go through in a season, not just with COVID, but with some major injuries throughout the year. You guys came together as a team and you still made your goals possible. How much did going through all that last year, especially for the young girls, help you develop and think is going to come back to help you this year?
Well, the positive side of that, and it was, I hope that no coaching staff, no team, no girls have to go through what we went through injury-wise because, that was painful and it was scary. And, these are teenage girls that, stuff like that from, what happened to Bree and to Izzy and to Gabby, you wish wouldn't happen to anybody. And then from a team standpoint that they had to witness that. And, when Izzy had that concussion, how scared we all were, we realized that it was really important that, for them to be sisters, like really, really be sisters, not teammates, not friends, but sisters. And, that really brought us together. What they were able to, kind of join in solidarity with each other and understanding that, we can't get through this alone, but if we put arms around each other and we help each other take a step every day, that we'll get through this together. We'll get through this as a team. And so that's a standpoint of now that it's happened and it's in our rearview mirror. I still, my heart breaks for all the girls that got hurt, but it's brought us closer as a team. The other side of that was how scary and challenging it was. And, I think, we have girls that are kind of looking over their shoulder with COVID, and obviously injuries are part of sports. There's like, geez, I hope we have a year that's a lot different from that standpoint than we did last year because, there's still some past memories there that are painful. And, hopefully us and every other team in the area can avoid stuff like that this year because, that was difficult to get through.
And of course, we're gonna knock on wood with this next question. But for as the future holds, it looks like we're gonna have a little bit more open as far as looks for basketball season than what we had years prior. How important do you think it is going to be for this team to have that South Range community that is so sports hungry and is so supportive of their teams back in gyms in support of this team this year?
Yeah, I can't wait to have more people come watch our games. And we're so blessed to have Ysn and you guys that we're able to broadcast games the past couple years, especially last year with COVID, so that people could see them. And I've said this, and I don't say it to be funny, but as successful as we were last year, COVID hurt us because we couldn't have people outside of parents, for the most part, come watch us play. And that was a special team. And those girls were so much fun to watch that if people were able to come, we would have packed that gym. And it would have been loud, and the girls would have got a better experience from the season because they would have realized the support they have. And so, this year, hopefully, you're right, the COVID stays away and we can get some people in the gym, and then, we'll put on a show for them. And like you said, it's such a great sports community. Always want to represent the burgundy and gold with pride and respect, and we're looking forward to that.
Coach, I got to tell you, if your fans can't get behind a team that has gone back-to-back regional championships, I don't know what they're going to get behind. I mean, the South Range community is strong. They better prove it. It's like you like to say, the world looks better in burgundy and gold a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, brother.
Before we let you go, you have been one of the more fashionable coaches on the sidelines that we get to see on our YSN family. Got to ask, what's in the works for this year as far as sideline attire?
So, I respect the heck out of you guys, but I'm going to politely decline to not answer that question. I will tell you this. I did order a suit on Amazon that easily would have been the best I've had. And unfortunately, when it came to being delivered, they said it was out of stock and wouldn't be back in stock. So, I'm disappointed there, but that's only motivated me to go find something better, maybe.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be real hard to one-up your John Hammond look from last year, I will say.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be exciting. And as we like to end each one, I want to do the same thing with you. We've highlighted some of the team. We've got to meet the team. Let's meet the rest of the South Range Lady Raider coaching staff. Just shout out some of your assistants and some of those big names that are going to be a big help for you this season.
Well, I'm so blessed to have around me who I have to help me. And, Brock Miller and Kaylee Luckland are going to run our junior high program, 7th and 8th grade. And that's the same. They've been there for now this 3 years with me. And so they're familiar with what we do. They teach the program so well and implement what we want them to implement. So that's awesome. Lauren Pavlansky has joined us as our JV coach. So anytime you get a Pavlansky on your coaching staff, that's something to be excited about. So that's cool. And Sandy Kohler is going to be our varsity assistant. And, a lot of people know Sandy and what she's done in the past and how many games she's won and what she knows about basketball. So, I've been blessed, like I said, for 3 years to have a great staff. And this year is no different. Another great staff, and excited for what we offer to our young ladies.
Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's always great to talk to you, and good luck in this preparation time for the season. And as the season goes, we'll talk to you again soon.
Yep, Anthony, Ty, thanks, guys. Take care. Have a good day.
That was Coach Fisher. We have a phone call. I'm going to try to get it before we go. Oh, just missed it. I didn't want to interrupt Jeff's interview.
Give us a call back, though. I mean, we'll happily take some calls. I mean, jam-packed show, too, and we loved it. We love to hear it. We love to hear it.
If you were indeed calling for Running Point and not calling to try to get a hold of DJ or someone that can help you with further assistance, please do call us back, 330-886-0813. We'd love to have you on Running Point. You can also comment on the comment section, brought to you by Boardman Mitsubishi. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch, we would love to hear from you. Leave us a comment about the girls basketball team at South Range, or the boys basketball team at Sebring, or hey, the boys basketball team at Edison that we're going to hear from any minute now. Literally any minute now. I mean, it's scheduled for 1:30. It's 129. We'll
Yeah.
probably just stay here until that happens. I want to bring up South Range's schedule, which we didn't get to with Coach Fish because we just had so much fun talking to him about some other stuff. But this schedule for South Range, oh my word, is it a who's who of great girls basketball, not in just our area, but in the region. They open the season on November 19th at home against Salem. This has become a girls basketball rivalry out of conference. They play each other almost every year. They've had tournament matchups. It's big. We'll go over the rest of their schedule a little bit later. We're going to first talk to Matt Smith,
Mark Smith.
Sorry, Mark Smith, the head coach of the Edison Wildcats boys basketball team. And we're going to bring him up right now. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Hey, nice to meet you guys.
Coach, I mean, first off, what I want to ask, over the course of the summer and the course of the off season, we know seniors go out. Some players don't rejoin the program, some do, and you bring up some young players. So, as far as my question for you is, looking at this season, who are some young players that you're excited for and that you think are going to be kind of the building blocks of this program? And just shout out some of those players to watch this year.
Okay, hey guys, I'm the girls basketball coach out at Edison. Girls basketball coach.
Girls.
Yeah.
You're good. I have 4 seniors coming back. I return all 5 starters. My top 7 players from last year all return. My 4 seniors that are returning are Elena Meadows, Alicia Fedorchik, Savannah Ankrum, and Gracie Fox. This will all be their third year starting. My only other starter that's not a senior, her name is Olivia Hoff. She's a junior. She started since she was a freshman. So we return all 5 starters. That this would be all of them. It'll be their third year starting. My first girl off the bench is also a junior. She mixed in and out of the starting rotation for the last 2 years, Pam Johnson. And our 7th man this year will be sophomore Presley Meadows, unless something changes.
When looking at those young girls too, and what you're trying to get developed, what are the big strengths that you're seeing, at least on the court right now, in them? And what are those kind of building blocks that you want to use to help them grow in this season?
Our girls are great. We have great kids out here at Edison. A strength of our program is we have fantastic leadership. Our seniors know what I want them to do. They bought into the process that we try to take here. My dad has been here for 3 years. This is only my 2nd year. I moved over from the boys, but my dad was an assistant, Coach Visser's last year. So they kind of got used to my dad a little bit, and we have really similar coaching styles. Our young girls have jumped right along with it. They follow right after our seniors, and they're looking to do great things also.
Yeah, talk about that transition. You said it's an easy transition because they're kind of used to the styles. What's it kind of been like to kind of roll into it and try to get everyone to kind of understand your philosophy and your styles?
This year is a lot easier than last year. I got hired 3 days before the actual season started in Ohio last year. Coach Visser decided that he wasn't going to come back, so I forget what day it was. It was like October 22nd or something. I got hired last year, and we started a whole new offense. We ran a whole new defense. I didn't know any of the girls. I coached 3 boys sports at Edison. I really didn't know many of the girls. So last year was very time consuming and strenuous, like learning things. So we started off our season last year 0-7, trying to kind of pick things up and understand what I wanted us to do and how I wanted it done. And then you saw us really take off the back half of the season once they kind of got an idea what we wanted them to do. So we won 10 out of our last 12 last year. This summer, the girls worked extremely hard. We got in leagues. We hadn't played in leagues at Edison for years and years. We got in leagues and we played, and we had good open gyms, and we had a great summer. We're well ahead of where we were at this point last year.
Looking at your schedule a little bit in that, and we know that Buckeye 8 is known for having some pretty good programs. What are some of those programs that you think, though? I mean, we know the Beaver Locals and such are always tough programs, but what are some programs that you think are going to be tough to compete with trying to claim that Buckeye 8 championship?
Obviously, Union Local is in girls basketball, and the Buckeye right now is phenomenal. They've all those girls have started since they were freshmen and sophomores. They competed with the best programs in the state of Ohio last year. They're in the South. Luckily, we're in the North, but they're all obviously very good. In the Buckeye North, Indian Creek should be pretty good again. They lost a few seniors from last year, but they have a good tradition there, and they have been very successful. Also, Liverpool and Beaver Local. Harrison coming to the north is also a tough matchup for us. The Dunkel girl for Harrison is very good. Coach Workovich does a great job. The Buckeye, it's great. Great coaches, great players. We really enjoy being in it.
Last year you talked about how you started, 0-7 and you won 10 of the last 12. Right. What did it show you from your girls to be able to bounce back from that start and come together as a team and really, really finish the season strong? I mean, it had to make you so proud as just a coach to see the resiliency of being able to just put the brakes on and put that start back in the rearview mirror and go forward with such success, because not a lot of teams can pull that off.
Right. Something that was pretty funny last year. I coached the first 7 games, and then my wife ended up getting COVID, and I went into quarantine for 2 games. And my dad loves telling the story. My dad was the girls basketball coach here for 20 years. His last season was, I believe, 2007. But he coached. He's my main assistant. He coached 2 games while I was in quarantine, and he actually got our first win of the season last year against Toronto. So that was kind of interesting. But our girls, yeah, they from day one they tried to do what we asked them to do. They were resilient. They practiced hard. It just took a little bit of a learning curve of things that we wanted them to do, and once they got it, they really ran with it.
And talking about that and what you're trying to build in this program, what do you want it to mean to be a Wildcat for these girls?
Our saying at Edison right now in girls basketball is tradition returns now. My dad, his last, I believe it was 19 years, they had 1 losing season at Edison. His players, we had 6 of his players last night at my parents' house at my mother's retirement party. Tradition, girls basketball at Edison traditionally has been very good, and it hasn't been for a while. And we're trying to reach back to that prior success that we've had, and we have a lot of his ex-players in the program coaching and doing things to help the program with our youth basketball, and we're just really trying to dig back into our past to hopefully create a better future.
This is something that we like to ask every coach when they come on the program. What kind of things do you want to teach your girls outside of basketball that you hope that when they graduate from your program, they have taken away from being at Edison and being under you as a coach?
Like you said, like I said earlier, I think we have awesome kids at Edison. They're top of the line, absolute top of the line. We ask them to do something, they do it. But like you said, things that they can grow from us are they have to be resilient. They have to be tough. We want to play fast. We want to play hard. So if they can get through our practices and get through the games, the style that we want to play, they can get through just about anything in life. And those are big things they can take from our program. Care about one another.
Talking about that and then talking a little bit more X's and O's on the court, is that the kind of style we're going to be expecting to see from you? Are you going to be trying to get out on the floor, run and gun a little bit more? Are we trying to score in the fast break as opposed to maybe a more methodical half-court offense approach?
Last year, we really had to be aggressive defensively. We pressed most games, the entire game, from tip to buzzer, but we had to last year. We had to really get after it on defense because we had to turn our defense into offense. Like I said, we had a really good summer. I think our girls worked hard skills wise, became better shooters, better ball handlers. We're still going to try to get out and run, but I think we can be a little bit more methodical on offense than what we were last year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and when you look at it, and obviously the girls basketball scene in the area, in your area, it is getting so much better, and you look at the growth of the sport over the years. What can you say from a coach and what you see out of girls basketball, and what makes you proud to kind of be a part of it?
Girls basketball in our area is great. I think we have a plethora of great coaches out in the area. The whole Ohio Valley has great coaches. What I do see growing is youth basketball, youth girls basketball in the Ohio Valley, and I think that's huge. I think it's huge. If we want to be able to compete with other teams around the state of Ohio, most girls start playing in kindergarten, first grade. And I know here at Edison, the last 10 years or so, girls are starting to pick up a basketball in 7th grade. And the other programs around the area are similar. But now I'm starting to see coaches really get involved in youth basketball and start to get girls out. Like we're sending 3 teams down to the Highlands to play. I know a couple other schools send girls to Minerva. They send kids to Eastern Ohio basketball camp to play in leagues. But I really like that the other coaches are taking that step to try to get their girls playing somewhere when they're young.
Yeah, it's a perfect segue into the follow-up question to that is, what are you doing as a coach of the varsity program to try to get the youth involved and try to get those kids a little bit more developed by the time they do get to 7th grade?
Right. Our this year we have a new boys coach out at Edison too. He and I both coached under Coach Moses, the old boys basketball coach. We were both his assistants. And Jeremy took over as the boys coach at Edison. But we are doing everything together. We have been going at least once a week with our youth for our 2nd graders through 6th graders since basketball season of last year, trying to input things like our basics of our offense, trying to get some skill development, dribbling, shooting, passing, obviously, but getting them to be competitive, wanting to win. Those are things that we're trying to strive to engrave into their minds.
What's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself since you've started coaching up until now?
I need to calm down sometimes. I get a little bit too fired up, and I'm dealing with high school kids that have a lot of things going on. And that's something I've learned. It's taken a few years. I've been coaching now. This is my 5th year coaching high school sports. I coached 3 sports for 4 years, but the kids have a lot of things going on, and you have to kind of be able to, I shouldn't say manipulate, but manipulate them to be ready for basketball and be ready for what you're trying to get them to do, but also understand that there's other things going on in their lives.
Well, the mere question that is, what's been kind of your favorite thing about coaching kids at this level and about, being able to build those relationships with players at the high school age?
Like I said, I've said this multiple times throughout this. Our kids at Edison are great. They're great. Like I said, I coached boys for years. I still talk to those boys every day. I'm super excited. They're having a great football season. A lot of those kids that I coach in boys basketball, I coach baseball also, having a great football season. It's so exciting to get to go watch them play on Friday nights. And girls, I get to go watch the soccer games and the volleyball games and the softball games. But they become like your family. I mean, you care about them like they're your kids. So it's wonderful.
And I think we've gotten that a lot too from a lot of coaching staffs there at Edison. That they can't compliment the kids there enough. My biggest thing now, my last question I've done for all these coaches, I want to highlight from meeting the team now to meeting the rest of your coaching staff. I know you highlighted a little bit, talked about your father being a role in that, but highlight some of those other big names in your coaching staff that are going to be helping you out along the way this season.
Yeah, so I have my dad. My dad was a head coach here for 20 years. He's got like 270 wins or something, 250 wins in Ohio at the varsity level. Lindsay Morrison. Lindsay's coming up from our middle school program. Lindsay was an assistant here for 4 years before she went down to middle school last year. I asked her to be our JV coach, one of our JV coaches last year, one of my assistants, but she goes, I think I can help more in the middle school and really get those fundamentals started there and built into our program. So she went down there last year, but came up to help us out this year. Lindsay was also an Edison girls basketball player and played on a few of our very good teams there in the 2010, 2012 era. Anna Alt's coming on as our head middle school coach. Anna played for my dad. We run a very similar system to what my dad ran 20 years ago, but she played for my dad. She understands what we want to do defensively, offensively. She's been great. She's also our 6th grade coach for our youth team. Josh Haspel. Josh is another one of our middle school coaches. Josh was Lindsay's assistant last year, but he's coming back, and he's going to be our 8th grade coach this year. And Miranda Robinson. Miranda comes from a great sports family. She's from down in Toronto. She just got done with college, and she's coming back from Columbus, and she's going to be our 7th grade coach. I'm hoping Tom Bozick. Tom Bozick is our athletic director here. He was my assistant last year, and I'm hoping he can be around as much as possible because he was great to coach with.
Coach, final question before we let you go. This is kind of your time to shout out the Edison community and try to get them to as many girls basketball games as possible now that we do have open gyms and fans are allowed to come into these gyms. What do you think is the biggest selling point for fans to come watch this team?
Our girls play hard. You'll never come and be disappointed with their effort. Like I said, at the beginning of last year, I was a little bit little bit frustrated with starting off the season 0-7, and I found it really hard to yell at these girls because they played super, super hard. Every minute of the game, they gave it everything they had. At points, we just didn't play well. We didn't shoot well. We didn't pass well. We didn't dribble well. But we always played hard. You'll be proud if you come in the Edison gym this year. You'll be proud how hard they play, and we're going to win some games.
We wish you the best of luck too, Coach, in your season, and we'll be looking forward to getting as much Edison Wildcats content on the network as we can this basketball season, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again real soon.
Great, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mark Smith, the head girls basketball coach over at Edison, joining us on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. What a great conversation with a coach that going into his second year, and we've talked to a lot of coaches that started last year, whether it be football, basketball, volleyball. Last year was kind of like year zero. There wasn't a lot you could really do because it was COVID and you weren't sure. There was so much uncertainty. Now you kind of get into this year 2/1, however you want to look at it, and you can really start to get your hands dirty with coaching these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. As just exciting, just getting to talk to some of these basketball programs too that are really looking forward to this year, and those programs like Edison, where they had their growing pains last year, but when you talk to Mark Smith and what Coach Smith has been saying too, everything's looking up in the Edison community, and what those girls worked on in the off season, they've improved those skills. And I mean, if you can improve two things, ball handling and shooting, those are two things, very key things. If you get improvement on from a lot of girls, you can become a very, very good basketball team. Especially those are the two skills that everyone's always striving to get better at in the sport. So if you have a bunch of girls that have improvements in that aspect, you're going to expect a better basketball team on the court.
When you put who they're bringing back and compare it to how they ended the season last year, that's a formula for a lot of success because they took a lot of momentum into the end of the season last year. They're bringing back mostly everyone from that momentum swinging end. So they should be someone to really contend with this year in the Buckeye 8 conference.
Yeah, especially in that Buckeye 8 North. And you got to watch out, like Coach Smith said, those matchups with Liverpool, those matchups with Beaver Local. There's Central's up there now, Indian Creek. There's a lot of great basketball matchups in the Buckeye 8, and you're going to see a good majority of them as we have a decent amount of the teams in that Buckeye 8 North covered on YSN. So you're going to get a chance to see a little bit of that Buckeye 8 North and see what they're bringing down in those communities.
Edison opens the season Saturday, November 27th at Catholic Central. And then their home opener will be December 2nd against Harrison Central, who we just talked about. So,
yeah, as we're always excited to see the schedules come out and be released, and we'll have to see the non-conference opponents too being scheduled for the Lady Wildcats as well as I'm not sure if all schedules are completed right now because I don't know, just December 2nd felt like a little bit late of a start date for
no, it's their home opener. Not
home opener. Okay, I'm sorry. I was about to say, I was like, I wonder.
Opener is November 27th.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was about to say, I was like, December 2nd seems very, very late for a program to start. I was just curious if maybe there was a reason behind it, or they just didn't have the full schedule released yet or something. I was like, that's a late start. But no, excited for the Edison program too, and excited to see what they bring. I might have to make a trip out to the Wildcats at some point this year.
Let's both go down to Edison. We'll do a Running Point live from the Wildcats gym.
Yeah, might have.
Idea.
I didn't stop at Edison in my tour. I got 26 schools last year in my basketball tour. So
I kind of like the idea of doing Running Points, like because it went so well from Mill Creek. I kind of like the ideas of going live and doing thing because now we can do these remotely. So we could both be at a different gym and do Running Point.
That would be something interesting too for both different gyms.
I think it would be kind of fun to do some live on location Running Points as we grow into this new era of Running Point as we have been so lucky to be on in the last couple months. I want to go back real quick because we couldn't go over that South Range basketball schedule after Coach Fitzgerald's interview. I said they opened the season on November 19th. That's a Saturday versus Salem at home. huge opening game for the Raiders at home. This Salem South Range girls basketball, it's a rivalry that's kind of been brewing for the last 5 or 6 years, and Coach Bailey, who is a great ambassador for Ysn, can kind of attest to that as one of the assistants on the Salem program. They've had tournament matchups. They've had several seasons where they've played each other twice. Every game seems like a knockdown, drag-out kind of game. It's going to be no different. Both programs should be very strong again this year, and they open the season against each other. Gonna be a great way to open the season, but it doesn't get easier for South Range because on November 23rd, they go to Hoban, a team they lost to in overtime last year, in an absolute offensive thriller that both teams scored, over 75 points. It was over 130 points combined. It was just a absolute mayhem game last year when Hoban came to South Range. So now the Raiders go up to Hoban. Then they have Girard, Mooney, Jefferson, Lakeview. Their first game with Poland, which is what the NE8 has come down to the last 2 seasons, South Range versus Poland. Their first game with Poland is at home on December 13th at home. And then they have Hubbard Laurel, which is going to be a really good matchup as well for the Raiders on the 18th at home. They play Talmadge at home, and they play Garfield at home. That Talmadge and Garfield games, a part of their Christmas tournament that they'll host the weekend after Christmas, the 18th and the 28th and the 29th.
There's a few teams doing that too. I wanted, before you continue, there's a few teams I noticed because I think I saw Fitch girls basketball was also doing around the same time where they're playing 2 games in one day, an afternoon and an evening game.
I believe Salem boys host a tournament very similar to that. So there will be a lot of kind of Christmas tournaments where we'll see a lot of non-conference matchups. Obviously, the United Way is another big one that happens at Poland. Not during the Christmas time. I believe it's earlier in the season. But when we get to the Poland coaches this year, we'll talk about that. That's an event they have every year in the Poland gym. South Range returns from Christmas break to play Struthers, Niles, and Girard all on the road. Then they are back home for Jefferson Lakeview, back on the road for Poland Hubbard. Close out the season with 4 straight home games, Struthers, Niles, and then check out this way to end the season, Brookfield, who they played in the district championship last year in a game that was a lot closer than people anticipated it being. And then they end the season at home against Canfield.
Yeah, we're excited for this, and oh my God, I'm already itching for hoops to start as it's right around the corner. Got to get through some football season and volleyball season first, but it's going to be here before we know it.
With that schedule, South Range might not have the prettiest record, but they're going to be tested for that Division III bracket. I'll tell you that.
We know it, and I mean, when you make it back-to-back regional finals, I mean, you're doing something right. So expect big things from South Range, and
bravo to South Range and Brookfield for playing each other that late in the season. 2 teams that played each other last year in the district championship could meet again in the tournaments very easily, going right at the second to last game of the season saying we'll play each other.
And we were talking about Brookfield girls basketball. I believe a certain Ken Forsyth is going to be on the show
this week sometime.
No, I think he's going to be on tomorrow at 12:30. So I guess we're going to have to talk about it from the other side of the perspective.
I was trying to tease it a little bit. You went right to it.
Yeah, we're going right to it. I want to go right to it because if you enjoyed what you saw today, a lot of girls basketball coming back at you tomorrow, and we get to complete the Monopoly set with the
because we get Ken Forsyth, who is a great coach from Brookfield, and then maybe on Mount Rushmore for girls basketball in the area, Walt DeShields joins us later in the program tomorrow.
The Monopoly set on Running Point. We already got Penny. We got Drew.
We got Walt.
We got Walt. We got the set. We're going to have the set here on Running Point now as we finally get to talk to Walt DeShields. And like you said, I mean, the DeShields name so freaking Hall of Fame worthy in that West Branch community.
Quickly before we go, because it's almost time to get out of here. Drew DeShields this week at Salem. Oh my God. Clutch.
That was
clutch. The kid is clutch. Any questions about that are gone. What a game, an instant classic. And you can see it again because we are re-airing it on all our social media pages today at 4:30. So don't miss it. If you missed it on Saturday, don't miss it tonight because we are going to plug it in again, the instant classic from Sabo Stadium at 4:30 tonight to rewatch that magical game between Salem and West Branch.
Yeah, and you know what? It was a big game, and the kids got guts because that win secured the number 1 seed in.
Talk about guts. The guts to go for it in overtime on for the 2-point conversion.
Absolutely, and West Branch proves again that they can win in those close ones.
It's literally we are winning or losing on this play. Period. Like
nobody is ready for the Warriors, and I'm gonna chant that for Division 4 all the way till the state championship. Nobody is ready for West Branch.
You're gonna have to score with them because they haven't been slowed down all year. You can see that Howland slowed them down, but they still scored 37.
I'm on Amo's train. I'm on Michael Page's train. Nobody is ready for West Branch.
So we will see how that all shakes out. We'll be back tomorrow from 12 to 2 with Ken Forsyth and Walt DeShields, the Brookfield girls basketball coach, and the West Branch girls basketball coach. That's tomorrow from 12 to 2. Casual Sports Podcast coming up next from 2 to 3, Power Hour from 3 to 4, and then once again a replaying of that instant classic from Salem at 4:30. Until tomorrow, me and Ty are out of here. See ya.